Well, we've managed to get a bit done.
Come back. Come back. Come on. Come back.
It's the best one, Ross.
Well, if ever a creature has suffered from bad publicity and unflattering public image, it has to be the donkey. This one is a little nibble on the side. Not very comfortable. You.
Make your way through, James. Okay, roll in. Good boy. Good windstop.
Harry's off. Look.
Okay.
When you talk to horse lovers about donkeys, you'll find opinions are pretty equally divided. Some of them love them and some of them hate them. Donkeys are funny creatures. With their big, long, floppy ears and their scrawny little tails, they've often been the butt of many a joke. Now, Jane found a group of people who absolutely adore donkeys, and they want to tell us why donkeys are just such fabulous creatures.
Has suffered from a bad image for far too long, it would have to be the donkey. Look at them. These poor little fellas have really suffered from the sins of one of their ancestors. In the Garden of Eden, the donkey reportedly forgot its name. And as a result, if we want to insult someone and call them stupid thousands of years later, we'll call them a donkey. Well, are they stupid? Are they stubborn? What was that noise? Stay tuned for all the answers to these and more questions when we talk to the donkeys. Come on!
Barbara Taylor is the best person to pin down for a tale or two on donkeys. She's the president of the Australian Donkey Breeders Society, and she and her fellow donkey devotees know this is definitely not a poor man's horse.
And they're much more person-orientated, I think, than horses are. So they're much more sociable, they're more inquisitive, they're a bit more stolid, they're not as flighty and they're not as excitable.
Kind of like the thinking person's equine, and that makes them great to ride.
They relate very well to people, they adapt very well to children. Sarah can really go for it if it's just me riding her and we're going somewhere, but if you put a child up, she'll get very quiet and sensible, and they're very careful, they're very gentle with children, and they seem to understand and just adapt to whoever they've got, and they like to be around you more, they relate to you more than a horse does, and that's what I like about them, and they're very safe out riding on the road with traffic and things, they're very sensible.
Of course, through history, donkeys have had some pretty celebrated riders. It was a donkey that carried Mary to Bethlehem on that very first Christmas. And Jesus rode through the streets of Jerusalem on donkey back too. So for nearly 2,000 years, donkeys have been in big demand for religious reenactments.
The most popular times of the year are certainly Palm Sunday, to take part in processions, and as part of the manger Bethlehem scene at Christmas. There's a lot of people wanting donkeys for that.
They're amongst the most ancient and popular beasts of burden too. Donkeys were brought to Australia last century to mate with horses and produce the mules that opened up our vast inland transport routes. Today, mercifully, donkeys work in much more humane conditions on our farms.
They're very good for small acreages. You can pull a little plough or harrows or a little scoop, things like that with them, or for pulling a log when you're doing some fencing and things like that. And for rounding up the sheep and the cows. Sarah's excellent at that. That's one of her strong points. She loves going down to bring in the sheep or the cows.
We use the carts for picking up rocks in the paddock and pulling logs and things like that. My little boy's only 2, so we like to have someone who's sensible, that you can trust in the cart.
Well, so far so good. We've dispelled that stupid myth, and we haven't heard so much as about that stubborn reputation.
Stubborn, no. Careful and cautious, yes. instead of bolting or panicking, it's much more likely to assess the situation before it decides what to do. They're very careful where they put their feet, and that's where I think some of the reputation comes from.
I had a 2-hour battle over a ditch with her early on in the piece, and at the end of it she said, "Okay, I give in, I don't like it, but I'll go over."
Now, this fella here, called Ty, knows just how stubborn some donkeys can be. He's the big stud at Barbara's farm, but his passion for muffin here is so far unrequited. Muffin's made up her mind this breeding business is a big bore. Maybe she's just off the idea because females, or jennies as they're properly known, have year-long pregnancies and can conceive just a couple of weeks after giving birth. So reaching adulthood can mean spending an eternity in maternity. That's certainly been the case for this elderly Jenny, Barbara's special pet.
She's had a lot of foals, and she's in some ways a bit typical of the story of how trusting, if you give them a chance, donkeys can be with humans.
This game old girl was the victim of the mistreatment that was rife in the donkey trade before handling and transport laws were toughened up in the late 1970s.
And she was one that was rounded up in the bad old days in the north and brought down to Victoria, and I went out to have a look at them, and there she was being rounded up by a fellow on a horse and charged into a yard, and I thought I'd like her. And she'll now is as placid, and she's just a delightful old thing.
Donkeys can tickle your fancy in many ways. They just have to find out about everything. And if you're thinking about becoming a donkey owner, then there are a few things you should find out about too.
Give serious consideration to whether you do actually want the responsibility of a donkey, that you've got enough land to keep a donkey on comfortably, that you are going to be around enough to give it the company it needs, and then when you have decided they might be the right animal for you, to try and look around at a whole lot of different donkeys if you can, so that you can pick the one whose personality suits you.
Then you'll find there's a lot to love about donkeys.
I think they're just so trustworthy. They look after themselves, so while they're looking after themselves, they look after their handler. They're almost like a dog, and they'll follow you wherever you go, and they're very friendly.
So next time someone calls you a donkey, say thank you, because it actually means you're hard-working, intelligent, loyal, gentle, dependable, a real fun character to be around, a total individual, in fact, and that can't be an insult. Get it?
From donkeys to dogs. Now, little Chantel here.
Good.
Getting ready for the big event.
Test class, which the entrants have all had the requirements sent to them in advance so that they're able to practice and get well and truly trained in this particular class. sponsor is Geelong Jock, owned by Lee Tillard. We're very grateful for Jock for doing that. Very generous boy.
Right. We'll keep right away from the out there, okay?
Old-fashioned photo type picture, and we also have a little antique alabaster donkey.
Oh, is it?
In the ridden class, in the ridden test, people are watching it. They will soon pick up exactly what the rider has to ask of his donkey.
Oh, you lovely boy.
Come a long way over the years from when we first had our championship shows, where it was a real effort to get the donkey to trot. I can take orders for those too, and I've got a sample of it up here at the microphone if you wanted to have a look. Remind you that we have our raffle. Graham Martin, who's Rachel's father. Graham is well known for his driving expertise, and he has had donkeys for many decades. They run the carriage driving company, a centre. Pamphlet here, if you're interested to know more about that. Of course, Stuart in ring 2 is Joe Bond. Well, it's always interesting.
Oh, what a better fella. Oh, no.
Is that what your mum will have to let this?
We have the results. We have class winning 2 judging through a set selection of obstacles. They are judged on accuracy, and timing, and just general performance. There are 3 donkey jobs in this. It really shows donkey's ability. Class is called the Harness Obstacle Course, and it's sponsored by Sidecar Donkey Stud. In Class 1, we're judging in Class number 7, which is the Lead Bruce Jenny, 7 years and over. This is a class for the older Jennies, and always felt that this is a very important class because that's where we can very beautiful donkey jumpers. And of course, don't forget our raffle. We have a lovely raffle this year. We have a framed picture, an old client picture. We also have an actual alabaster set here. Exhibitors haven't turned up, so we have one entrant in this class left. But they still have to go through their paces because you don't automatically get a blue ribbon because you're the only one there. If you're not a good looking donkey or you don't behave yourself, you could maybe go out. Donkeys are the future breeding number one. It's certainly a way by bringing them out to the shows, these shows, and the agriculture.
Right.
Okay, we have a supreme champion for the 19...
Very good at it, so Belinda, affiliated with one more.
Two first prizes, Luke.
Good girl. No, you stay.
I think everybody should give them a hand. It's been a lot of hard work for them. He's out on the ring now, so if you wanted to catch his eye later and have your donkey's photo taken, he would be more than happy to do so. Here's our official photographer for today. You could go there, but we would like you to go when you have a spare 10 minutes between classes or when your riding one is finished. Please go there as soon as you can. So if we don't have 10 that all need to be done at once.
practice me.
Crossing now, going through the obstacles. In ring 1, judging the harness class, with a single donkey driven in harness, performance only to be judged. Sponsored by the Australian Carriage Driving Centre. They have panels. Congratulations, they look terrific. A few more skills in riding. And we've already proved that donkeys can do just about anything.